Heather Locklear used to be a big name in Hollywood. Her parts in Melrose Place and Money Talks wowed people. Because of her looks and skills, she was a star in the 1990s, but her life wasn't so glamorous. Her work was once very successful, but now it's been harmed by addiction, personal problems, and heartbreaking choices. The most recent news about Locklear, though, shows something even worse. Where is the star who used to have everything? As Locklear's fame began to fade in the early 2000s, she began to deal with personal and professional problems that would have a big impact on her future. The stresses of Hollywood and the problems in her personal life seemed to have made a storm that Locklear couldn't get out of. Friends and family couldn't do anything to stop her from falling into a cycle of drug abuse and mental health problems that sent her to rehab more than once. It has not been easy for Locklear to go through rehab. By 2019, she had been to more than 20 rehab centers, and each time there was a small chance that things would be different this time. Trying over and over to get back in charge of her life cost her a lot of money and hurt her feelings, which made the people she loved worry all the time. It wasn't just drugs and drinking that Locklear had problems with. A mental health battle that had been going on for years was also going on for her. In 2008, the actress went to the Sierra Tucson Treatment Center in Arizona to get help for her sadness and anxiety. It was clear how hard her problems were for her. Even though she wanted to be alone at this time, the fact that her life was so public meant she could not avoid the news. It was said by her representative at the time that there was no statement and that they would not say anything about Heather's position, in an effort to keep her safe from the public attention that was on her. But because Locklear lived in the public eye, every step she took was watched closely, and every mistake was made worse. It wasn't long ago that the actress was on magazine covers and red carpets, but now tabloids were writing about her fall. It was well known that she had problems with anxiety and sadness, but she kept how bad her pain was to herself, away from everyone else. The relationships he had also caused him a lot of pain. Her marriage to Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee in 1986 was a big deal. Fans loved how the rock star and the Hollywood actress seemed to go together so well, but there were a lot of problems in the marriage that nobody saw. Locklear hoped that her marriage to Lee would last, but by 1993, they were no longer together. Locklear said, "When I think about the breakup, I'm not devastated or destroyed. It's mostly just sad." The sadness she felt, though, was deeper than she let on, because it was the start of a string of bad relationships. Not long after she split up with Lee, Locklear fell in love with Richie Sambora, the guitarist for Bon Jovi. In 1994, they got married, and it looked like Locklear had found her happily ever after. They had a girl named Ava, and for more than 10 years, they looked like the ideal Hollywood family, but there were cracks appearing behind the scenes. The world was shocked when Locklear filed for divorce from Sambora in 2006. Even Locklear was surprised by the move. Her representative said, "This is a private matter, and there will be no further comment at this time." This left the public to guess what went wrong. There was a big change in Locklear's life when she and Sambora broke up. She seemed to be going downhill faster because of the pain in her heart, the stress of her job, and her ongoing fight with her mental health. The problems Locklear was having had hit a breaking point by 2018. There were reports that she had turned down help from people closest to her, which set off a terrible chain of events that left her alone and exposed. People spoke to a source who said Heather isn't getting the medical and mental health help she needs. You need more than just rehab to deal with addiction problems. You also need to get a good diagnosis and help for the mental health problems that are causing them. People who cared about Locklear were heartbroken that she wouldn't ask for help. A lot of her friends and family wanted her to get better, but they knew she had to make the choice herself. The star was only a shadow of the strong and beautiful person she used to be, facing demons that were much stronger than any character she had ever played on TV. Even though her life had been mostly dark, there were times when it was bright. Locklear marked her first year of sobriety in 2020 and told her Instagram followers about it. "Hugs are on the way." Today was her first day sober in a year, and she wrote a happy letter declaring that she was finally in charge of her life. The path to healing is never easy, though, and for Locklear, it was full of problems that put her resolve to the test at every turn. Locklear's path through addiction and recovery has been marked by fights in public and in private. In 2018, she wrote an emotional Instagram post about how having an addiction had changed her life. "Addiction is very dangerous and will do everything it can to hurt you." She wrote, "Recovery is the best revenge," which showed how hard it was for her every day. But even though she was happy about being sober, there were signs that the fight was far from over. In July 2023, it was said that Locklear was having trouble staying sober again. A person said she had been drinking and had said she wanted to go back to rehab, but she hadn't done anything yet to get help. People who were pulling for her to get better were devastated by the news, and it made people worry about her health. Locklear's strange behavior, like the time she was seen walking along the edge of a building in Malibu, made people even more worried about her safety. A person who saw what happened said that Locklear seemed to be talking to herself and acting in a way that was both scary and very worrying. Locklear's family and friends were once again left wondering what could be done to help him. The star was alone after being surrounded by adoring fans and all the other things that come with being famous. Her life was nothing like the Hollywood dream she used to have. During the whole thing, Locklear's daughter Ava was always there to help. Daughter and mother had a close bond, and Ava was always there for her mother, through good times and bad. In 2019, Ava talked about her bond with Locklear and how much she loved and admired her mother. She said, "I would love to follow in my mother's footsteps," which showed how close they were. Even though Heather Locklear's life was already hard, the blow she got when a close friend lied to her was something she never saw coming. Before she started dating Locklear's ex-husband Richie Sambora, Denise Richards had been a nice person in her life, but when she did, she became a huge source of pain. The link between Richards and Locklear wasn't just through close friends in Hollywood. They lived next door to each other and knew each other through friends, like Charlie Sheen, who worked closely with Locklear on Spin City. There was a lot of hurt feelings in Locklear because she was already having a hard time after her marriage to Sambora ended. It's thought that Richards and Sambora didn't start dating until after Sambora got divorced. For Locklear, who was still hurting from her own breakup, the timing couldn't have been worse. It was clear that seeing a friend with her ex-husband was hard on her emotions, and the stress it caused was enough to end the friendship. Richards, for her part, tried to play down the fight by saying in interviews that she and Sambora were no longer friends before they started dating. "We were friends, and the fact that we were both divorced is what brought us together." Richards said, "I did not steal someone's husband," trying to make things clear. Locklear, on the other hand, was already hurt. As if losing her boyfriend wasn't bad enough, Locklear's personal life kept getting worse. Chris Heiser was her high school sweetheart, and she reunited with him years later. Their relationship was rough from the start. Even though it sounds sweet to rekindle an old flame, their relationship was very unstable. Charges of domestic abuse were brought against Locklear in 2018, after an incident at her home in Thousand Oaks, California. Things got so bad that her brother had to call the cops because he couldn't handle the chaos any longer. Reports about the night paint a scary picture. Locklear hit Heiser badly when she was angry, which led to her arrest. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office that was involved in the case said that Locklear said he was hurt, but there were no obvious signs of injury. "We found out that she had hit her boyfriend." Captain Garo Karisian of the Sheriff's Office said that the event shocked people who knew Locklear and made many of them worry about her mental health and well-being. A person close to the star talked about the relationship and said that they got back together a little over a year ago. "We don't know how well they get along." Even though things got off to a rough start, Locklear and Heiser stayed together and tried to make their past safe, but Locklear's path to healing was never easy. During these hard times, her friends and family were very important to her. Especially Locklear's parents were always there for her and did everything they could to help her get back in front of things. But even their steadfast support couldn't always stop Locklear from falling apart every time she looked like she was getting better. People who knew the actress when she was at her best could barely recognize her. She used to be the height of Hollywood glamour. The Heather Locklear who was always ready, professional, and liked on set was no longer there. Instead, she was someone who was trying to hold on to who she was in the midst of her chaotic life. In April 2010, she was in a hit-and-run accident that was one of the less serious but still upsetting events in her life. Thank goodness no one got hurt. Even so, the event made the news and added to the story of an actor whose life seemed to be falling apart. Her black BMW car was involved in the accident. It was still registered in both her and her ex-husband Richie Sambora's names. The car ran into a parking sign and did some slight damage. The accident wasn't very bad, but it got a lot of attention from the media, which Locklear probably didn't want at a time when her life was already hard. In a statement, Ventura District Attorney Gregory D. Totten confirmed the facts and said that there wasn't enough evidence to figure out who was driving the car at the time, so no criminal charges were brought. Locklear's love life was also full of ups and downs. Her romance with Jack Wagner, who played her co-star on Melrose Place, was one of the more well-known ones. They had been friends for a long time. In the end, their professional partnership turned into a romantic one. By 2011, they were engaged and making plans for their future together. However, the couple called off their engagement later that same year because of the stress of planning a wedding and worries about how their marriage would affect their children. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight, in 2018, Wagner, who is known for always being polite, answered questions about Locklear with grace. When asked about his ex-fiancée, during a time when a lot of people knew about her problems, he gave a serious answer, saying that everyone has problems in life. He said that everyone has problems. We all do. We all deal with them in different ways. Either we really work at getting better, and time will tell when you decide to do it. His words made Locklear think of the fights she was still having, even though she was trying to get stable. Locklear has had a lot of problems in her life, but her friendship with her daughter Ava is one of the best and most lasting things about it. Even though Locklear had to deal with her own problems, the bond between her and her daughter stayed strong. Ava, who has had anxiety problems, has talked a lot about how her mother has always been there for her. Even though Locklear's life has been full of chaos, her job as a mother has stayed the same. Ava says that her mother helped her deal with her worry, especially during a tough time in 2019. Even though they lived far apart, Locklear always made time to be there for her daughter, Ava, giving her support and advice when she needed it. Ava told CNN that her friend would stop what she was doing at any time of the day to come calm her. She would talk to me on the phone late at night until I was calm enough to sleep, even though I told her she didn't have to. The close bond between a mother and daughter that was formed through hard times has been a source of strength for both women. Even though Locklear had her own problems, she made it a point to help Ava. Even when her public image was failing, she showed a loving and caring side of herself. It was clear that Ava appreciated her mother's work when she talked about how Locklear did everything she could to help her get through hard times. From taking her to the doctor and giving her books on how to deal with stress. There have been many ups and downs in Heather Locklear's mental life. The death of her father, Bill Locklear, was one of the hardest things she had to go through. On June 12, 2024, Heather broke the sad news to her Instagram fans by writing a touching tribute to the man she called the smartest person I've ever met. In her post, she called her dad the love of my life and talked about how proud she was to be his daughter. She wrote, "The bar is oh so high," which showed how much she admired and respected him. Sources say that Bill Locklear had been sick for a while and had been hospitalized in February of that year. This was a difficult and trying time for Heather and her family. Through his death, Heather lost more than just a father. She also lost a person who had been there for her, especially when things were at their worst. People in Heather's family knew how close she was to her father. Heather made a touching movie tribute to his 90th birthday in July 2019 and called him her hero. Bill, who was always there for his kids, replied to the video with a love message that showed how close they were. "Good news, you've brought me into your life today and I will be there for you forever." Heather's life went through a big change when her father died. She had to face the fact that she had lost one of her most important ties. Even though she was sad, she found comfort in remembering how much her father loved and taught her. The death of her father came after a time of relative quiet on her social media. Her previous posts were mostly about happier events, like when her daughter Ava got engaged, which Heather called the second best day of her life, with Ava's birth being the first. Heather's father had always been there for her, especially when she was going through tough times at work and in her personal life. Heather talked about how happy she was to be getting older, even though she was 60 years old in 2021. She said this was because her parents loved and supported her. Heather was sad about the death of her father, but she also thought about her job and the problems she had to deal with in Hollywood. Heather never gave up on her dream of becoming an actor, even though the business tends to ignore older actresses. Many people saw Heather's part in the 2021 TV movie Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, the Christine Carlson story, as a possible return and a chance to show the world how talented she still is. She went into the part with the same drive that had made her career stand out. She was eager to show that she still had a lot to offer. Heather's ability to get through hard times and keep fighting for her job shows how strong she is. She has had many problems in her personal and work life, but she is still determined to move forward. In the way she remembers her father, Heather Locklear shows that there is always hope for a better future, even after a terrible loss.